Kikosho! I did it!
Hey everyone, welcome in, and what you're looking at in the background right now is a deck that I kind of kept secret, but sort of secret for a little bit, but didn't very much early on, because I was using it in the tournament that was just this past weekend, which if you didn't know, it was for Thirsty put on a tournament that was a post-rotation tournament, and it ended up being, I believe, over 57 players from around the world, and a lot of the top players from here, a lot of the top content creators, and a lot of the top players in Japan as well played in the tournament. This was kind of a side deck that I built because you had to have 3 decks, and it ended up being my strongest deck, and it's also going to end up being super buffed when the new patch updates come out, the new buffs come out, because Kikosho is going to go down from 17 to 14, which means you could probably activate it at least 1 or 2 more times a game, which could completely make this deck insane. This deck already was insane, and in the video you're going to see a lot of the tournament gameplay because it was against a lot of really tough, really top players, especially on the Japanese side. So yeah, this is the deck. I call it Team Iris, and you'll see why in a little bit. Okay, so this is the deck, everyone. It's called Team Iris because not only do you have 8 Iris units, you have 3 artworks, or 3 action cards with Iris on the artwork, so basically a third of your deck involves Iris. But take a look, it's machines, so it's all the synergy with machines. So let's do a quick overview. So I run 2 Disarm and Inflict Seal on an enemy unit. I run 2 Blade Shattering Defense, gives plus 3 HP to a friendly unit. Memory 2, it also gives that unit a shield, which isn't a problem to get in this deck at all. Tragic Rampage is a new card that is for the machine archetype. It gives 1 friendly machine unit +1/+1 in shield. Really good in this deck, especially for 2. The new action card, it's a legendary Phantom Beast Slayer. Select 1 friendly unit, deal damage to the enemy unit in front equal to the selected unit's MP. If that unit is destroyed by the damage, the friendly unit gets +1/+2. That's really good in this deck, especially since you have a lot of 5 costs, and you could even use it with the 4 costs, as you'll see in one of my games, once they're chipped down because of the shields you're going to have. 2 of the Memory Iris. Memory 2, she gives +1/+2 to a random friendly unit other than herself. 2 Bamboo Pandemonium. While on the field, decrease your MP charge speed by 30%. Yes, that's detrimental, but at a 4/8 for a 3 cost on the field, that's fantastic, especially with the way this deck buffs each other. And if you have the 5 MP Iris on the field, it actually, you still get that 20% MP gain. So you're still gonna he's a little more situational, or a late game once the resources are dried up and things like that, but he's still very strong. The new 3 MP Iris, when played, if another friendly machine unit is on the field, she gains +1 attack, so she'll come out at a 2/8 if you drop her second. Sympathy, it's from a Tiny Hero. It's a little bit older card, wasn't played much very often, but it's all friendly machine units gain shield and anti-air for 3 costs. That's amazing. Especially in this meta with the rampant flying green-red, with the big Rezo that tries to fly over the top. You also have the new black decks running solo that try to fly over the top, so it's just very good. Stimulating Supper, it gives 1 unit death, gain +2 MP, but it also makes that unit a 2/2. You can use it, I've used it on my own side to get a quick MP gain, and I've also used it against an enemy that's super buff, and it drops to a 2/2. This is a little secret in the deck. Not a lot of people expect this, especially with the machine. Like, it just surprises people when this comes out because it makes this deck just run faster. My son is playing Brio and he just made a circle. Say hi, bud. So Rush Rotor, while on the field, all friendly machine units gain agility. So when your units get buffed because of their synergy, and then you drop this, you're just hitting that. All 3 lanes are agility. It's just super pressure. It makes them adjust quickly. Crescent Grizzly, he's a machine, and while on the field, all friendly machine units gain +2 attack. So he comes out at a 2/5, automatically buffs himself, and then he buffs every unit else on the field. A new card, I only run it at 1 as like a tech card, but it works very well when you given the opportunity. Manipulated Justice, give 1 friendly unit shield, then give all friendly units with shield +2 attack. So that in turn just really buffs this deck up, really buffs the field and keeps units alive. I run 3 of the 5 MP Iris. She has shield and MP boost 50. I run Advanced Artifact X. When played, he gives random friendly unit 5 HP, and then he also, on victory, he gains the ability of the defeating unit in front of him only once. Still very good, very strong in this deck. You don't see him very often, but when you do, he does help swing the tide of a game. And 3 Hutzels. He has shield and anti-air, and while on the field, all friendly machine units gain +1 attack. So that is it. This deck is all about building synergy with the units, using dropping something like Hutzel and the 3 MP Iris, and then dropping Rush Rotor and letting it work out, or even dropping like a Crescent Grizzly, 5 MP Iris and Hutzel, and that gives you all the MP to respond. And with Kikosho, you're constantly keeping your units buffed and shielded and on the field at all times. So that's the deck. Oh, and also talking about the anti-air is very important in this deck. It helps block out those big, heavy flying units, especially if you don't have a Hutzel to drop down and take care of that. But that's the deck. Let's go over and look at some games. I'll go over it. A lot of the games, like I said, are from the tournament because it's really high-level gameplay, and so it helps you kind of really understand what goes on with this deck. Alright, this first game is against Mirage Decoy. This is in a practice build of when I was practicing before the tournament. So we open with a very buff hand, especially with the Hutzel, the Iris, and the Pandemonium, along with Axe and Supper. You're looking very, very strong in this opening hand. So I drop Hutzel in the open slot to keep him alive, and I put Iris to block, and then I'm putting X down because I'm trying to steal that ability. And here's where the shields start to come into play, because now I'm all set up for some shields. Yes, you took some X HP, but X basically becomes a washout at this point. He's going to wash the field because of the lowering of the attack. And this is what I'm talking about when you drop Brush Loader. They have no time now at this point. They're going to have to remove it, and they do. And now I'm just waiting because I know they're close to that hero art, and you don't need to play any cards at this point. I'm setting myself up so when they use the hero art, I can then respond accordingly. They steal, and they can't remove anything because it's a 5, and so there's the misplay by them. It's a little bit of a misplay either way, but I'm literally set up at this point, and I use Kikosho for the last shield, and they surrender. Here's another practice run. It was against Kyle P, who, if you guys don't know, he's one of the most nicest guys you will ever meet involved in this game. He's one of the smartest people ever to meet involved in this game. He's always willing to help people. And this was in a practice session on one of my streams, which, by the way, I am streaming on Twitch now twice a week. So we were having some practice sessions and room matches on Twitch, and this is one of those games. And it's the Memory Yawn. So this was a big test for me to know if I was going forward with this deck. As you can see, I pulled another Rush Loader early, but you could just respawn with their shields itself. And here I'm just going to seal that feline. I don't want any buffs going out on the field. And then I shield up. And as you can see, my hero art is good on the bottom at this point. And here we go. along with agility, shields, and buffs. You just roll at this point, and here's me using the manipulation card. I shield the Hutzel, and when I shield the Hutzel, he still gets the buff as well, and because the buff happens after the shields occur, so now I have these huge units with shield on the field. I respawn here with another shield, and at this point I literally do not need to respond to anything. I don't even need to put a unit on the field. And there you go. As you can see, this, when you get the agility going, it's really quick, really fast, and it's like a let's go. The next game is actually in the tournament. I was playing Daz in the round, and I was down 0-1, and I decided to throw this deck out there to get it going. I needed a change of momentum, and this deck really occurred for me. As you can see here, I kept this hand with Crescent Grizzly and Rush Rotor because I'm like, we're going, and we're going fast right off the bat. He goes for the quick destroy, but I have a shield to block, and I'm going to shield, and he's going to counter, and I'm going to respond with my own because I see he has no MP to shield at this point. And as you can see, that's how it works. It could work with the lower cost units to chip and buff. And now I'm just saving up my MP a little bit. And I drop it right there just to keep that Iris alive and keep a lane open in the field. And so this is all about responding with shields and action cards, and when you get manipulation available, to use it. And as you can see, even if he puts a flying unit on the field, he can't go over the top of me because all 3 units have anti-air. And see, he gave me a chance to use manipulation, and I know I didn't go up top to the Crescent Grizzly because he's buffer, because I know he's leaving with that Thunder Brew. And I put Iris down for the extra buff, and I shield for an extra protection. And there is that game. And here I wish I would have actually got the name of the Japanese players, because they were all super friendly, super awesome, and really good. So this is going to be against the Memory Yawn in the actual tournament. And I really went to try to rush this hand because I know with the Memory Yawn it's easier to rush. So I mulliganed to try to get myself, it was a chance to take to try to get myself a good field, and I got an excellent field because I'm going to have Rush Rotor, Iris, and Hutzel on the field, so the buffs. And I'm saving, I could have responded there, but I was saving it because I don't need it at the moment. I want to get the full field with the shield buff. So I'm waiting for him to use an action, and then I'm going to respond accordingly with a free action. I used that on Rush Rotor to make him buff enough, and then they give me another opportunity to use anti-air. That's the thing with Memory, is if you have the shield in hands versus Memory, Yawn decks, you're going to be able to respond accordingly. Have enough for Kikosho, and now I just have this buff agility field that's just rolling at this point. And I chose to drop that Iris because of the buff on the field. And now here's where I'm going to go through it, and I'm going to try to keep that Hutzel on the field because I do have a 6-6 Rush Rotor up top. Well, I did until they seal it, but I still have a 6-6, a 3-5, and a 5-5 on the field. And it gets removed. I'm still trying to keep that Hutzel alive on the field. He's very important to this whole keeping Rush Rotor pretty buff. He drops the new in thing, which is a drop Sherry. And I take that opportunity to seal her so she gets no life gain. Here's where I almost cost myself the game. I thought he was going to drop something, so I was trying to block it early, and he didn't, and I let him back into it by being able to drop his Jaggies. which gave him the ability to yawn out of this, but with that Iris I'm able to block. And there you go. I made that game longer than I have to because if I didn't respond with an action, a shield, it would have just ended probably. Here's against Water, super strong player, probably one of the strongest players I've ever seen in this game, and this is the one game I took from him. I lost both after that, but this is I started off with this early because I noticed the success I was having in the tournament with it, and I could already tell he's going big rezo, and I'm going to seal that Dante right off the bat. And I decided to add anti-air because I know they're coming back with, there's at least 2 hook shots and a double trigger in the deck. So if I can have my units with anti-air, I can stop him from going through, and see, as you can see, there's a hook shot. He's fishing for cards at this point. So then I drop the Iris for the extra buff, and he gives me the opportunity to use the 2-2. So Dante can't even really do anything to Iris at this point. So I shielded there just to keep units on the field and keep an extra buff. He's going to brainwash my Iris, which is fine. I still have stuff on the field, so I go up top and I use my buff up top so that I have 2 shields up top plus a buff, and then I drop Hutzel and they're even buffer, but he removes them right away. But the key thing is here I have anti-air, and I decide to seal the Iris. You're not getting any more MP out of me. I can tell with the second halt he's still fishing for a unit. So I drop Iris in front to give me a block and some MP. And then I drop Hutzel. So now I have a 3-3 Iris, and here's where things get interesting, is that I know he still has at least a hook shot and a devil trigger. So I really want him to let that Iris die. This all depended on, he's trying to save himself at this point. He only can go there. If he freezes Iris, he loses the game. So I know when she dies, so I'm hovering over with Hutzel here because I know once she dies I need a block. And I get the block. And he's going for a halt because he's hoping that he can hit over the top before. Because what would happen there is my Hutzel would hit first and he would die, but with the shield he would have lived and then blocked that unit, or blocked the Hishenko, and that's it. That is the deck. That is my Team Iris, my Kikosho machines. Like I said, it's going to get really, really buff. With the buffs it got going down to 14, it's going to be so much more fun to play. It's going to be annoying to many, many players. People already hate shields, and this is going to make it even more annoying. I'm also really excited about that because as soon as I played well with this deck in the tournament, they announced that they're buffing it. Because I think I was the only player in that whole tournament that played Kikosho, which was an odd choice for me even, because I was leaning towards something like True Power or Yawn, but I went with Kikosho instead, and it paid off. So that's the deck. You guys take care. I hope you enjoyed this, and I will catch you guys on the next video.